Alright, continuing from our last lesson, we have this rear triangle going on here. And we've made our circles on the line in different segments. And so it's tapering down, and it's also curving along the path in our 2D drawing here. So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to be making a shape to curve out and around the tire. And to help visualize that, I just placed the tire in my drawing. You don't have to have this. This is actually, it won't appear on yours because I did some extra work here. So this is the tire that we're going to be wrapping our frame around. So it needs to come out from the center post where the seat is, out and around, and it's going to connect to like a hub here that holds the whole rim in place and all that good stuff. And there's some measurements over here. I'm just going to unisolate everything. That this is the thickness of the hub, and there's some brake stuff here and like a gear, and this is where the fork would actually, this would attach right here. So that is the width that we're trying to create space for that, all of that to fit in between the two sides of this triangle, which create kind of like a fork to hold all this together. So the measurement that we have here is 140. So keep that in mind because we're going to need that. The distance of half of that would be 70. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and isolate my layers that I need. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a line that's going upward in the Z plane. That's 70 units that we just talked about. So this is the distance out around the tire that we need to go. So we're going to create a line here. Just use the line tool. I'm going to go out from this point, this intersection, and make sure that you're drawing in the right plane. So you want to kind of get your cursor to snap to what would be a Z. You're drawing in the Z plane. So you should see that polar and Z. If you don't have your polar snaps on, this is not going to work. You could actually, I think you could probably turn both of these on, but I'm going to start with just, let's go ahead and turn both on and see what happens. Or actually, it can only be one or the other. That could be actually pretty helpful. So this limits you to the 90-degree angles to make sure that you're drawing in the Z axis. And then we're going to type in 70, enter. So now we've created a line. I'm just going to orbit to show you what it should look like. So it's jumping straight off the page in the Z direction. So what we're going to do is going to create a triangle between this point, the end of the line that we just created, the end of this curved line here, and then back here to the starting point of our line. So I'm going to go, and it doesn't matter which line tool you use, it's actually not going to be part of our drawing. We're just using it as, we're going to have to turn this off. So go back to the polar tracking, but not ortho mode. So polar tracking. And then we're going to snap here to the center point of this circle, and then over to the beginning of our line over here. So now we have a triangle which represents the movement that we want out away from the center of the bike to make room for the tire and all that good stuff. And this triangle is, let me just turn on the tire just to show you. So you don't have this in your layers, but I do. So what we're doing is curving out around the tire, and this triangle is, like if we wanted to have a fender or anything else, it's just too close. So we're going to use this as a reference, and we're actually going to create something a little bit more attractive than just a straight line out here. So we're going to kind of curve out and over to this point. First thing we want to do is be able to, we need to be able to align our UCS to this triangle that we just created, so we can actually draw on this plane. So I'm going to, let me hide the tire. And I'm going to set my UCS to be aligned with this triangle. So with the UCS tool, I'm recording. I'm going to have to start all over.
No, you're not.
I'll just leave that in,
Yeah.
this whole conversation.
Okay.
I need help with Kid.
Okay.
We'll be quiet now.
We'll turn the light on. It's weird.
I was like, is he?
Please leave that in there.
No, my light just turns. My light turns off if I'm too still for too long. It just has an auto off.
Okay, leave that part in where we came in, okay?
Alright, so I was so rudely interrupted. Here, let's continue. So to align the UCS, you can actually align it using a 3-step process. So you're just determining what direction you want X to go, which direction you want Y to go, and then Z would actually go in the third direction. It doesn't have a choice. So you're basically choosing which direction is X and which direction is Y, and then Z is just going to be straight up from those two planes. So with the UCS tool, you can just start clicking where you want your point of origin. So typically would snap to a specific object, but we're just going to choose which direction we want X and Y to go. So I'm going to choose the start point, just the point of origin here, just aligning the center of this whole contraption in the center of this circle. Now I can align X wherever I want it to go. I'm going to align X over to this point. Let me zoom out a little bit. So I'm going to align X with this line here that we created in the triangle. And then my Y I'm going to align with this line up here. And then Z is just naturally straight up from those two planes. So I'm going to just orbit to make sure my UCS is in the right spot. I don't know why it's orbiting from way over there. It's being weird today. That's not very helpful. Alright, so the point of this is we're going to now view this from the top. So you should be viewing your paper basically from straight on from the top. And now I'm going to hide my UCS just temporarily, so it's not in the way there. And we're going to create a nice curve to this line. So we're going to be using a spline, and with this we're going to turn off these snaps so we can just freehand draw. I'll just turn all these off related to snapping. And then we're going to grab the spline tool. And to start my line, I'm going to have to specify a snap. So I'm going to shift right click, then choose the end point of this line over here. So that's my starting point. Now I'm just going to freehand draw just by clicking a couple times a nice curvy line here. You don't have to have a lot. I've only clicked twice so far. Then I'm going to hold the shift right key, right click, shift right click, then choose an endpoint over here. And then remember, don't just escape out of this. You have to press enter to accept your line. So I have a simple curve here going out and around the tire instead of just jutting straight out in a triangle, like an angle. So I have a curvy thing here. So if you're not satisfied with your curve, if you want to make it a little different, I'm going to grab this point, move it down, and then move this one in a little bit. Kind of like that. Alright. So this is kind of how it's going to look curving out around the tire. I'm going to edit that just a little bit more. Bring that in somewhat. Alright, so this could be different for yours. It could look a little bit different from mine. Just fine. This is not a real production bike, so. Alright. We're calling that good enough. Alright, with our curve here, we're going to move, the next goal we have is to move each of these circles in line with that curve. So we're going to be using the move command. So we're going to click on the move tool. There's a little button there if you want to use that, or you could just type in move. But we're going to use this first circle as our first experiment here. So we're going to click on this object. That's the wrong object. Click on this circle. Press enter. And it says specify base point. We want the base point to be the center of the circle. So if you don't already have your snaps on, you could turn those back on. And then find the center of the circle. So I'm going to shift right click to make sure it's the correct snap. Finding the center of this. Click there. And then we're going to restrict our cursor to specific angles by turning on ortho. So now I can only move in 90-degree angles. And I want to move this direction. And I know the exact measurement because this is 70 units away from the original line. So I'm going to just type in 70, enter. So I've moved my first circle. The rest of these we're going to have to eyeball because we don't have an exact measurement from this line up to our curved line. So I'm going to click on the move tool, select my circle, enter, specify the center as the base point. So I'm going to shift right click, make sure I choose center, and click on it. And my cursor is still restricted. So I'm going to move out this way until I get close to the line. So I have a snap here, and I don't actually want to snap to this line. I'll show you why. So if I click here, it looks like it's perfectly in line, but if I orbit, it's actually moved it outside the boundary, and I don't want that. So I want this curve to be correct. Let me just remove this line for now so that you can see better. So this represents the circle there, and it is not in line with the original drawing. So it's going over here and then back over here. So you can't snap to this line. We're just using it, we're eyeballing it. We want it to stay in line with the original drawing, but we're just moving it up to match our curved line. So I'm going to undo that step. Here we go. So move, select your circle, enter, shift right click, center, grab it from the center, and we're keeping ortho on, and we're going to turn our snaps off. to make sure that we don't snap to this line. And so I'm just eyeballing it here. I want the center to be in line with this curved line. So I'm going to click to place it there. So I've done now 2 circles, the rest of the same process. So move, select your circle, enter, shift, right click from the center of the circle, and grab that there, then move your cursor up in line with your curve. A few more to do here. Alright, so this one is at the point where it's going to stay there, right where the frame is. Okay, so if we did not have attention to detail, you might think that we're done, because it's now curved in line with our curve around the tire, and it's, if I view it from the original 2D drawing angle, it's in line with the original drawing. All the circles are still in line, and they're curving out in the direction I wanted them to. So the next process, don't do this with me, I'm going to just show you why this is wrong. So the next process would be to loft this object. I'm going to use the surface tab to do this. So I'm going to choose loft, and then consecutively you want to choose circles in the order that you want them to loft. So it's creating a mesh. This is just a surface right now. Then I'm done. Enter, enter. But it's not perfectly circular. Right here it's actually oval shaped. You can see that by the cross sections. So the tube kind of narrows in here where it shouldn't. So we're going to fix that. Go back before that. Make sure I'm going to view from the top here. So in order to keep it from getting squashed in, we need to rotate our circles to be in line with this curve, so perpendicular. So we want as best as possible for the circles to be perpendicular to this curved line that we created. So we're going to be rotating our circles. On the Home tab, go to the find the Rotate button. Click on that. We're going to select a circle here. Let's start down at this end. This one we want to leave straight. So starting with this one, I'm going to click on it, press Enter. Specify the base point. Again, we want the center. Shift right click, center, choose the center of the circle, and we want to turn ortho off. So now I can change the rotation, and I want to have it be in line with the curve here. So I'm just going to align the little dotted line that it gives you, the dashed line, with the curved line itself, and click. Now that one wasn't much different, but the rest of these are going to be a little bit more curved. So I'm going to click rotate, select my circle to rotate, enter, and then shift right click, specify the center of the circle as the base point. And now I'm going to align it with this line here. Continue down the line here, rotate this circle, enter, specify base point, shift right click, center this circle, then align this with the line. The last few really have a rotation in it, and you should tell a difference. So click on rotate, select your circle, enter. Specify by shift right click, oops, the wrong thing there. Rotate, circle, enter, shift right click, center, and now I'm going to rotate this in line with a curve there. Then the last one is going to have quite a bit of an angle. So I'm going to rotate, circle from the center. Ooh. Why is there no center? There we go. And I'm going to imagine this line being continued out. So right there. Alright, now we're ready to loft. Have all of our circles in the right plane and a line perpendicular to the curve that we created. It's all ready to be lofted. Since we're going to continue doing solids, I'm going to loft this as a solid. So go to the solid tab, and loft isn't on here. So to loft, it's actually a surface process of creating a surface, but then it can be transformed into a solid as you're creating it. So we're going to go to the surface tab, click on the loft button, and then we're going to choose from the menu down below the mode, and we want to create a solid instead of a surface. So click on solid. Now we're going to click consecutively starting at one end, joining the circles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then your last one here. Then we're going to press enter, and then another time enter. And now you can orbit and see your new solid here. I'm just going to turn on the other layers so I can see what my end result is. Well, actually, I'm just going to do the 3D frame up to this point. I'm going to go back to the world UCS, and I'm going to turn on 3D frame and 3D head caps. And for me, I'm going to turn on the tire just so I can see how that's going to curve around that. And I'm done with the triangle that I created, so I'll go ahead and delete these lines. And I'm actually done with all of this, but I'm just going to orbit now to see. And to make sure that it's all in line with the original drawing, I'm going to view from the top. Actually, it should be back to World UCS. Now, view from the top. So you can see that is perfectly in line with the original drawing.